Dr. Anika Rao stared at the test results, her fingers gripping the edges of the tablet so tightly that the device creaked in protest. The numbers didn't make sense. Again, she demanded, turning to her assistant, a harried technician named Felix Cho. Felix adjusted his glasses and nervously tapped at his console. Doctor, we've run it 6 times already. The readings haven't changed. Across the lab, a dull gray sheet of impervium, the alloy that had consumed 2 years of Anika's life, rested within the test chamber. The latest attempt to penetrate it with a military-grade plasma cannon had yielded the same result. Absolutely nothing. The surface didn't scorch, warp, or even register an increase in temperature. The energy simply disappeared, absorbed, and diffused harmlessly. Anika's mind whirled. The implications were staggering. "We just made energy weapons obsolete," she whispered. The lab door slid open, and Captain Elias Vance strode in, hands tucked into the pockets of his navy blue uniform. His dark eyes swept the room with the weary amusement of a man who had seen too many scientific breakthroughs turn into military headaches. "Doc," he drawled, "you called me down here like the station was on fire. This better be good." Anika gestured toward the test chamber. "Better than good. Game-changing. We've synthesized an alloy that renders energy weapons useless. It doesn't just resist damage. It neutralizes it." Vance let out a low whistle. "Well, that explains why Command flagged your research as top priority. Someone up the chain is going to have a field day with this." Before Anika could reply, the intercom crackled. "Captain Vance to the bridge. Zeltari vessels inbound." A ripple of tension passed through the lab. Felix swallowed audibly. Even Anika, who preferred the controlled chaos of a research lab over the vast emptiness of space, felt her pulse quicken. Vance exhaled sharply. Damn, that was fast. He turned on his heel and strode out. Anika hesitated for only a moment before following. By the time they reached the bridge of the Dauntless, the situation had escalated. The view screen displayed the sleek, angular forms of Zeltari warships slipping out of hyperspace like knife blades emerging from the dark. Their hulls pulsed with eerie, bioorganic luminescence, an effect that humanity's top xenologists insisted was merely for intimidation. If that was the goal, it worked. Ambassador Kaio Koro stood near the communications console, his posture carefully composed despite the visible tension in his shoulders. He cut an imposing figure, tall and elegant in his diplomat's tunic, but Anika knew he preferred negotiating trade agreements over facing down an empire notorious for its warlike tendencies. "They're hailing us," the comms officer reported. "Let's hear it," Vance said, leaning against the command chair with forced nonchalance. The screen flickered, replaced by the image of a Zeltari commander. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the dim light of his warship's bridge, his segmented jaw twitching as he regarded the humans with something between disdain and predatory curiosity. "I am War Prince Zalvoth of the Zeltari Dominion," he announced, his voice a grating rasp. "You have developed a material that threatens the balance of power. Surrender all research and production facilities immediately, or be annihilated." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Anika felt her stomach tighten. The Zeltari would make good on that threat. Ambassador Okoro stepped forward, his expression calm. "War Prince Zalvoth, humanity has no hostile intentions. Impervium is a defensive innovation, not an act of aggression." Zalvoth let out a low, clicking sound. Laughter, perhaps. "Your assurances mean nothing. Your species has disrupted the natural order. Energy weapons are war. Their supremacy is unquestioned. And now you make them meaningless?" His mandibles snapped shut. "This will not be tolerated." Vance crossed his arms. "Yeah, well, tough luck, bug boy. We're not handing over our tech because you're feeling insecure about your fancy space guns." Anika winced. Tact was never his strong suit. The war prince stiffened, his compound eyes narrowing. "Then you will burn." The transmission cut off. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as officers scrambled to battle stations. Alarm klaxons blared. Vance turned to his weapons officer. Do not, repeat, do not fire first. Let's see how long it takes them to realize they're wasting their ammo. Anika's breath hitched. Captain, if they start firing, they'll learn soon enough that their weapons don't work on impervium. What happens when they realize they can't win with energy weapons? Vance shot her a sidelong glance. They'll switch tactics. Okoro exhaled sharply. And if they have anything other than energy weapons, they'll use them. The first plasma bolt streaked toward them, crackling waves of superheated death. Anika braced for impact, but when the blast struck the station's newly reinforced outer hull, they fizzled out like dying embers. Direct hit, the tactical officer reported. No damage. Silence. Then, over the comms, a guttural, incredulous growl. What trickery is this? Vance grinned. No trick, War Prince. Just science. Juno Jinx Carter, the station's resident engineering wildcard, leaned against the bulkhead with a smirk. I say we let them keep shooting. Maybe they'll blow a fuse. Another barrage lit up the void. More nothing. The Zeltari fell silent. Then came the pivot. The alien fleet realigned, shifting into a blockade formation. They're cutting off our escape routes, Okoro observed grimly. Anika's stomach twisted. The Zeltari were fast learners. They wouldn't waste time on useless weapons. That meant they were already planning something else. Captain, she said, voice low, we need a counter-strategy. Fast. Vance nodded. Agreed. Let's figure out how to turn our fancy new metal into more than just a shield. His gaze flicked toward the screen, where the alien fleet loomed. They wanted a war, he muttered. They just picked a fight with the wrong species. A tense silence filled the bridge of the Dauntless. Outside, the Zeltari fleet loomed in perfect formation, their warships a wall of bioluminescent menace. They had stopped firing. They had realized the truth. Their weapons were useless. Captain Elias Vance drummed his fingers against the armrest of his command chair. Anyone else get the feeling they're reconsidering their life choices? Juno Jinx Carter, arms crossed, let out a chuckle. They've spent centuries blasting their problems away. Now, their big, scary lasers are about as threatening as a flashlight. Ambassador Kai Okoro, standing stiff-backed near the communications console, didn't share her amusement. They won't simply retreat. Zeltari doctrine is built on dominance. If they can't crush us conventionally, they'll adapt. His deep voice was calm, but his fingers tapped a steady rhythm against his tunic. Dr. Anika Rao exhaled through her nose, arms folded. We need to think ahead. They'll try something new, something we're not prepared for. Vance leaned forward. So, let's make sure we are prepared. Options. Jinx grinned. We could fly up real close and just bump them. See if their hulls are as tough as their egos. Vance snorted. Tempting. But I was thinking of something less likely to start an interstellar incident. The tactical officer cut in. Sir, incoming transmission from the Zeltari flagship. Put M through, Vance said, straightening. The screen flickered, revealing War Prince Zalvoth once more. His mandibles flexed in irritation. Your defiance is futile. You cannot hold this position forever. Vance shrugged. Could have fooled me. You're the ones just sitting there. A deep, guttural hiss. You have defied the natural order, human. Energy weapons are the foundation of war, of supremacy. Your alloy has disrupted this balance. You have two choices. Surrender your research or face annihilation by other means. Anika swallowed. Other means. Okoro took a step forward. War Prince, this technology does not threaten you. It does not attack. It only defends. Zalvatha's mandibles clacked. The strong do not require defense. Only the weak hide behind shields. Jinx muttered, Yeah? Tell that to history. Zalvoth continued, ignoring her. Very well. If energy cannot destroy you, Then we shall use mass and fire. Let us see how well your station resists the force of a planet crashing into it. The transmission cut out. A cold knot formed in Anika's stomach. They're going to hurl something at us. Confirmed, the sensor officer reported. They're repositioning. A pause. Then, a sharp inhale. Sir, they've locked tractor beams onto an asteroid. A big one. Vance's jaw tightened. They're going to sling a rock at us and let good old-fashioned physics do the work. Jinx let out a low whistle. They really don't take losing well, huh? Can we shoot it down? Anika asked. The weapons officer hesitated. We have railguns, but they were designed for ships, not stopping a small moon, Vance finished grimly. The asteroid, already shifting in space, was kilometers wide. If it hit, even the impervium-reinforced Dauntless wouldn't survive. Okoro turned to Anika. Is there any way to use impervium offensively? She hesitated. The metal was perfect for absorbing energy, but her mind raced. Absorbing energy. We could redirect force, she murmured. Vance's brows lifted. Explain. Anika spun toward Jinx. How fast can we code a projectile in impervium? Jinx blinked, then grinned. Depends. How illegal are we talking? Extremely, Anika replied. Jinx clapped her hands together. Then give me 10 minutes. 8 minutes later. Jinx wiped sweat from her forehead as she clambered onto the railgun platform. All right, folks, feast your eyes on the Oh Crap special. Patent pending. The projectile was sleek, metallic, and now entirely encased in impervium. The idea was simple. Fire it at a high enough velocity, let it absorb the asteroid's kinetic energy, and send that force back into the rock, shattering it before impact. Vance stood beside her, arms crossed. Tell me this won't turn us into an expanding cloud of debris. Jinx gave him an exaggerated thumbs up. I would never tell you that. Vance sighed. Fire the damn thing. The dauntless railgun hummed, then roared. The impervium-coated slug shot forward, a silent blur in the void. Seconds stretched. Then, a detonation of force. The asteroid buckled, kinetic energy rippling through it unnaturally fast. Fractures spread like lightning, and with a final, silent explosion, it broke apart into harmless debris. The bridge erupted into cheers. Jinx hooped, pumping a fist in the air. And that, my friends, is how you turn science into violence. Vance shook his head, but he was smiling. Remind me to never let you design anything without supervision. Anika exhaled, tension easing from her shoulders. That should make them think twice. And it did. The Zeltari ships hesitated, their once imposing blockade faltering. Another transmission came through. Zalvatha's expression was unreadable, but the twitch in his mandibles betrayed his frustration. You fight like no species we have encountered before. Vance smirked. Yeah, we get that a lot. A long pause. Then, a single word. Withdraw. The transmission cut out, and the Zeltari ships peeled away, disappearing into hyperspace one by one. A stunned silence followed. Jinx broke it first. Did we just win? Anika let out a breathless laugh. For now. Vance sank into his chair, rubbing his temples. We just made a galactic superpower look like idiots. This is definitely not over. Okoro nodded solemnly. No, but it's a beginning. The tension on the dauntless bridge had faded into an almost eerie quiet. The Zeltari fleet was gone. They had faced down one of the most aggressive empires in the galaxy and lived to tell about it. But Captain Elias Vance wasn't celebrating. He sat in his chair, fingers steepled, watching the last fragments of the asteroid drift harmlessly past the viewport. Sir, the comms officer hesitated. We're receiving incoming transmissions from multiple human colonies. Word spreading. People are calling it the miracle at Dauntless. Juno Jinx Carter, still flushed with victory, leaned back against a console, grinning. I like that. Has a nice ring to it. Dr. Anika Rao didn't share her enthusiasm. Miracles don't last. Vance nodded. No, they don't. He turned to Ambassador Kai Okoro, who had been silent since the battle ended. What's the political fallout? Okoro's expression was unreadable, his deep voice measured. We just humiliated the Zeltri in front of the galaxy. They will not let this stand, but they also won't rush in blind again. He clasped his hands behind his back. Next time, they won't just come for us. They'll come for humanity itself. Jinx's smile faded. So, what? We should have let them vaporize us. No, Okoro said, but every species watching now sees humanity as a destabilizing force. We didn't just defend ourselves. We rewrote the rules of war. That terrifies them. Anika exhaled, rubbing her temples. We need to protect this research. Impervium isn't just a shield anymore. It's an advantage. If it falls into the wrong hands, it'll trigger an arms race, Okoro finished. And war won't just be coming from the Zeltri. A heavy silence settled over them. Then the intercom crackled. Captain, we have a situation in the research bay. The research bay. Vance strode in first, Jinx and Anika close behind. The lab was in chaos. Personnel huddled near the walls, guards with weapons drawn. At the center of it all stood Felix Cho, hands raised, a data drive clutched in his fist. A security officer had a pistol trained on his head. Vance's voice was dangerously calm. Felix, you want to explain why you're being held at gunpoint? Felix licked his lips. Captain, it's not what it looks like. Jinx crossed her arms. Oh, because it looks like you were trying to steal classified research right after we pissed off an empire. Felix's gaze darted to Anika, pleading. Dr. Rao, you know me. I'm not a traitor. Anika hesitated. Felix was nervous by nature, but this was different. She took a step forward. Then tell us what's going on. Felix swallowed hard. I was contacted before the attack. By someone high up. I don't know who. They told me if I copied our research and sent it off-world, I'd be protecting humanity. Vance's eyes darkened. And you believe them? Felix exhaled, gripping the drive tighter. Look at what we've done. We've made war change overnight. The Zeltri are only the beginning. Every major power will come for this. They'll fight each other for it. But if we control who gets impervium, if we share it with all human colonies first. Anika felt cold. You don't know who you were sending it to. Felix flinched. Jinx shook her head. Damn it, Felix. For the greater good is always how this crap starts. Vance exhaled. Give me the drive, son. Felix hesitated. Just a second too long. Sir. One of the guards interrupted. We found this in his quarters. He handed over a second data drive. Already loaded for transmission. Vance clenched his jaw. Then we're already compromised. Felix's face crumpled. I was trying to help. Vance's voice was like steel. Guards, take him to the brig. As Felix was led away, Jinx let out a long breath. And just like that, the secret's out. Anika turned to Okoro. What do we do now? Okoro's expression was grave. Prepare. The war on the horizon. Later, in the dauntless strategy room, the core crew gathered. The weight of their predicament was settling in. Impervium research is out there now, Anika said. That means two things. First, humanity will be forced into a new arms race. Second, the Zeltri won't wait for us to build up. Okoro nodded. They will strike before we can mass-produce impervium defenses. Vance folded his arms. We need allies. Other human colonies, neutral factions, even alien species who'd rather see the Zeltri kept in check. Jinx smirked. So, we're about to go full intergalactic salespeople? Hi! Have you heard the good news about physics-breaking space metal? Anika pinched the bridge of her nose. This isn't funny. Jinx's grin faded. I know. But if I don't laugh, I scream. Vance turned to Okoro. Who can we trust? Okoro thought for a moment. The Yaurin Confederacy. They hate the Zeltari, but they're not expansionists. The Free Terran League. Outlaw colonies, but smart enough to know a good deal when they see one. And he hesitated. The Auravax hegemony. Anika frowned. They're isolationists. Okoro met her gaze. And one of the only species advanced enough to understand impervium's implications. If we can convince them, they might protect us simply to stop others from misusing the technology. Vance nodded. All right, we make contact, cut deals, and buy ourselves time. His gaze hardened. Because the next time the Zeltari come back, they won't be aiming for just Dauntless. A heavy silence followed. Jinx exhaled. So, no pressure. Anika stared out the viewport. The stars stretched on, vast and unyielding. Somewhere out there, war was already brewing. They had changed the galaxy. Now, they had to survive it. The Dauntless emerged from hyperspace into the cold void of neutral space, the rendezvous point with the Yaurin Confederacy. The planet below, Orleans 4, was an inhospitable ice world, chosen specifically because neither side would want to fight here. Captain Elias Vance studied the alien fleet ahead. Yaurin ships were sleek, silver, and organic in design, nothing like the Zeltari's war-forged monoliths. The Confederacy had agreed to talks, but trust was a fragile thing. Juno Jinx, Carter sat on the edge of the captain's console, idly spinning a wrench. So, what's the over-under on us getting blown out of the sky? Ambassador Kai Okoro didn't look up from his tablet. If they saw the Zeltari retreat, they know we're worth listening to. Dr. Anika Rao frowned. And if they don't, Okoro finally met her gaze. Then we pray their curiosity outweighs their caution. The comms officer turned. Incoming hail from the Yaurin flagship. Counselor Eris Vex speaking. Put them through, Vance said. The screen flickered to reveal a tall, willowy Yaurin. Her skin shimmered in silver-blue patterns, her eyes pools of black. When she spoke, her voice had a strange, musical cadence. Humanity has disrupted the balance of power. Vance leaned forward. With respect, Counselor, the balance was already broken, just not in our favor. Vec tilted her head. You have forced the Zeltari into retreat. That is no small thing. And yet, your own kind betrays you. The stolen research has already reached the Free Terran League. The Zeltari will not wait for diplomacy. They will return in force. Okoro nodded. That's why we need allies. You fear what impervium represents. So do we. But the Zeltari want to erase it, to erase us. You stand to gain more by ensuring humanity survives than by watching us fall. Vex studied them. Then, a slow blink. The Confederacy will not fight your war, but we will provide technology support, enough to ensure that when the Zeltari return, you will not stand alone. A collective breath was released across the bridge. Vance inclined his head. Then you've just changed the future. Vex's eyes gleamed. So have you, Captain. A betrayal unfolds. The relief didn't last. Barely an hour later, alarms blared across the Dauntless. Jinx skidded into the bridge, her usual smirk absent. We've got a problem. Big problem. Anika looked up from her console. What now? One of our own just disabled the impervium lab. Vance stiffened. Who? A new voice cut in. That would be me. Felix Cho stood at the entrance to the bridge, flanked by two armed figures in Free Terran League insignias. His expression was grim, but there was no hesitation in his voice. The League doesn't trust you to keep this technology safe, he continued. We can't risk impervium staying in one government's hands. We're taking it. Jinx let out a low whistle. Damn, Felix. You really committed to the whole worst decision possible thing. Huh? Felix's jaw tightened. I never wanted this, but humanity needs balance. Not another empire. Okoro took a step forward. If you truly believe that, then you know this isn't the way. Felix hesitated just a second. It was all Vance needed. Now, Vance said. Jinx moved first. swinging her wrench into the nearest gunman's arm. The weapon clattered to the floor. In the same instant, Okoro lunged, disarming the second. Felix staggered back, eyes wide. Anika grabbed his wrist before he could run. "You're not leaving with anything." Felix swallowed. "You don't understand. The League won't stop." Vance's voice was steel. "Neither will we. The battle begins." By the time Felix and his accomplices were secured, a new alert blared. "Captain," the comms officer's face was pale. "Zeltari fleet incoming. They're not waiting this time." Vance clenched his jaw. "How many?" A tense beat. "Too many." Jinx swore. "Guess they weren't kidding about other means." Vance turned to Okoro. "Counselor Vec needs to see this." Within moments, the Yaurin appeared on the main screen. Her expression was unreadable. Vance spoke evenly. "You said you wouldn't fight for us." Vec's gaze flicked to the incoming fleet, then back to him. "I did." A pause. Then a slow breath. "But I never said we wouldn't fight with you." The Yaurin ships moved first. The Dauntless followed, and war erupted in the void. The legacy of Impervium. The battle would be spoken of for generations. The first time the galaxy truly saw what Impervium and humanity was capable of. The Zeltri were forced back again, but they did not break. Humanity had allies now, but also enemies in its own ranks. The Free Terran League would come. Others would follow. War was no longer a question. It was a certainty. But as the Dauntless sailed forward into the unknown, one truth remained. Humanity had changed the rules, and nothing would ever be the same.